Hello, it's Kristen Hayward, the Gift Spotter. I want to talk to you today about shame. Shame can be a debilitating emotion. What I mean by that is that when we feel shame, we may feel really low, we can get sad. And if feelings of shame continue, we may feel a deep sadness that can lead to depression, that can and does lead to depression. Because we make our shame mean that we're not good enough, and our ego, which is our false sense of self, latches onto those feelings of not being good enough, those feelings of shame, and then we may spend much of our lives running from shame. One of the ways to run from shame is to acquire stuff to cover feelings of shame. We might buy nice cars, jewellery, whatever it is, but no amount of stuff is going to be enough to cover the shame, because you can't run away from it. It's in your body, and it seeps out from every inch, every crevice of our bodies. Shame can also lead to us not showing up, of not connecting with our true nature, of not voicing our opinions, because who am I to show up? I'm not good enough. So feelings of not being good enough are deeply connected with shame. We must learn about this emotion, because we all feel shame from time to time, and it keeps us from connecting to our true nature, living our purpose, and it keeps us, suffering and disconnected from other people. It stops us from being really, truly intimate with other people, because we don't want to show them too much of ourselves, in case they find out the truth. So what is shame, and where does it come from? Well, as you would know, I'm sure, couldn't be just me, it's this sort of yucky, heavy feeling that when we've done something wrong, disgusting, disgraceful, appalling, in the eyes of other people, that's what shame's about. If we are raised by parents who don't do the work, that is the inner work, to raise their level of self-awareness, for them to look at their own shame and where they're projecting it, most of us haven't done the work, then our parents, could be anybody in authority, such as your boss, can project their shame onto you, and they can keep projecting it. Even when their bodies don't work properly anymore, one look of disgust or disappointment can trigger your shame. And it doesn't even have to be from the person who originally wounded you with their projection of shame. It can be anyone that resembles them. And you can be wounded and re-wounded by that shame. And whenever you feel shame, a voice inside your head can scream at you things like, you're an idiot, you're stupid, you're a liar, you're dumb, you're ugly, you're no good. You heard these things when you were young, from other people perhaps. But even when they're not around anymore, you carry those voices in your head to remind you how not good enough you are, how shameful you are. So you have a constant reminder whenever you're trying to show up. Get back in your box. You're not good enough. The evolutionary science about both shame and guilt are absolutely fascinating, because both those emotions are designed to protect ourselves against harming those close to us, and to help us sort of behave in different ways, to learn from our mistakes. But that's the well-meaning purpose of shame. But unfortunately, shame all too often takes a huge toll on us, as feelings of not being good enough make us feel heavier and heavier and ground us in sadness. Yeah. Before I go on, let me tell you that you are important, that you are gifted, that you have a true nature, unique, not like anybody else's. It's beyond your ego identification, which, by the way, is where shame resides, in the ego. And that no matter what you have done, no matter what it is that you've done in your past, you are good enough, because you are here on this earth. You have a strong purpose, and it's time, now is the right time, that you face those feelings of shame. Those feelings of shame that keep you stuck, that keep you small, that keep you sad at times. I want to help you, because I know all too well about shame. I lived a life feeling ashamed. I was ashamed of a whole raft of things when I was younger. I was ashamed of my body. I was a large frame girl in a town that valued petite, pretty girls who didn't say too much. And here's me, here am I, someone that had opinions on just about everything. I was ashamed of my daggy clothes. I was ashamed of how I occasionally liked to, well, I don't know about liked, but stole money from my parents. I did. I was ashamed at how I snuck more than my fair share of chips and lied about taking them. I was ashamed that I was emotional through tantrums. I was ashamed that I talked too much, that I was only average at school. Oh my God, I could go on and on and on about how much shame I felt. You know, by the time I was 16, I was full up of shame. And I know a lot of beautiful, beautiful people who are full up of shame. As an adult, I suppose the most thing I was ashamed of was how direct and truthful I was, both in my personal life and at work. I remember asking a CEO for his time. I'd just taken his leadership team through a program and found out just how toxic the culture was. And I thought, well, they're not telling him, so I'll tell him. And I asked for a meeting and I told him. And I wasn't asked back. I was told, no, that's enough, you're not doing the rest of the leadership program. Even though I said it in a respectful way, I was so ashamed of that, and I put myself down about that. You know, the problem with shame is that we feel shame for being the people we were meant to be. I am meant to be somebody who speaks the truth. The problem with shame is that if I feel ashamed for talking too much, then I might just stop talking. And if I stop talking and digging for the truth, then I wouldn't be here with you, teaching you about sticky shame and how to wash it off your body. I feel like I'm an expert on this topic after facing much of my shame, after looking in the mirror, after luring my shame in for many a conversation, rather than drinking that glass of wine or eating that chocolate bar to escape the shame, or buying a new dress. Instead, especially over the last year or two, I've been asking my shame questions. Come, let me talk to you. What are you ashamed of? What are you ashamed of? Then I deeply listen to a childlike voice. I'm too outspoken, she says. And no one wants to be around me, she says. Why can't I just be quiet? Something my mother often said. And I say, well, why do you think you're outspoken? And she says, because I can't bear it when people are not being truthful. I just can't bear it. I don't want to hurt people, but the truth is more important than anything in the world to me, even if that means not being liked. And there it is. In speaking to that little girl, I'm speaking to my true nature. My true nature is speaking to me through the lens of shame. Why did you steal the money out of your parents' wallets? Because I wanted to go down the shops and buy some lollies and have half an hour of peace before going home to that stressful environment. And then as the adult, I can say to that child, you know, I'm really sorry you had to go through that. Shine a light on your shame. Bring those parts in from a loving conversation. Listen to that part of you that has something to say. You will always find your true nature that talks to you through those through the shameful parts of you. Your true nature is trying to soothe itself in some way for the travesty of not being able to express him or herself, for the travesty of not being seen. Journal your shame. That's what I did. Speak your shame. Share your shame. Shine a light in the dark, and the dark won't exist. A saying that I love is, you are only as sick or as sad as your secrets. You are a ruby embedded in granite. Why do you pretend it isn't so? I see you. Come, return to the root of yourself. Come. You are not your shame. Isn't it time that you had some conversations with those beautiful, shameful parts of yourself so that you can bring your true nature back in and be all that you are meant to be in this